the doctors had stopped making promises. The machines still hummed, the nurses still moved with quiet urgency, but hope had almost disappeared from the brightest room in the city's most luxurious hospital. 8-year-old Callum Sterling, the only son of billionaire industrialist Magnus Sterling, lay motionless as specialists from around the world admitted they had exhausted every treatment. Outside, television reporters gathered under the clear blue daytime sky, waiting for updates, while his father stared through the hospital window, realizing that all the money in the world could not buy one more heartbeat of hope. If you believe kindness can change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to Kindness Studio. Your support helps bring more heartwarming stories to people who need them. Magnus Sterling had built an empire from steel, technology, and determination. His skyscrapers touched the clouds, his companies employed thousands, and newspapers called him one of the richest men alive. Yet behind every headline was a father who would have traded every fortune he owned for one ordinary afternoon playing catch with his son again. Callum had once been energetic, endlessly curious, and fascinated by birds that nested outside his bedroom window. Then a mysterious illness slowly stole his strength. Week after week, every test led to more questions instead of answers. Specialists flew in from different countries, experimental treatments were attempted, and countless prayers filled the hospital chapel, but each sunrise seemed to bring less hope than the day before. Just outside the hospital grounds, where expensive cars came and went, a 12-year-old homeless boy named Rowan spent his mornings collecting recyclable bottles. His clothes were faded, his shoes were worn through at the soles, and his backpack held everything he owned. People hurried past him without looking twice. Some assumed he was invisible, while others believed he had nothing valuable to offer the world. Yet Rowan carried something few people noticed. Ever since his grandmother had raised him before passing away, she had taught him to pay attention to people instead of appearances. She believed that true kindness began with seeing what everyone else ignored. Every afternoon, Rowan rested beneath a large maple tree across from the hospital entrance. From there he watched worried families arrive with flowers, balloons, and hopeful faces. One day he noticed a small sparrow repeatedly flying toward Callum's hospital window. The bird returned again and again, carrying tiny blades of grass in its beak before resting on the windowsill. Rowan smiled sadly, remembering how his grandmother once said that birds often return to places where love remains strong. Something about the lonely sparrow stayed in his mind. The following morning, Rowan saw Magnus standing alone outside for the first time. The billionaire looked nothing like the confident businessman shown on magazine covers. His shoulders were heavy, his eyes were filled with sleepless nights, and his expensive suit could not hide the exhaustion carved across his face. Most people would have been too intimidated to approach such a powerful man, but Rowan remembered his grandmother's words that grief made everyone equal. Quietly, he walked over and held out the small wooden bird whistle his grandmother had carved years before. It was the only keepsake he had never sold. Rowan believed it had once brought comfort to people who felt alone. Magnus accepted the tiny whistle out of politeness, though he did not understand why the boy offered something so precious. Rowan simply explained that sometimes hope arrived in unexpected forms and that people should never stop listening for life, even when silence seemed louder than anything else. Those simple words lingered with Magnus throughout the day. Later, standing beside Callum's bed, he gently blew the wooden whistle near the open window. Outside, the same sparrow immediately appeared, chirping brightly before landing on the windowsill. For the first time in many days, Callum's fingers twitched ever so slightly. The nurses rushed to check the monitors. At first everyone assumed it was coincidence, but Callum's breathing became steadier. Doctors carefully adjusted his treatment while continuing to monitor every tiny change. No miracle happened all at once. Instead, improvement came in small, fragile steps. A stronger heartbeat. A deeper breath. A slight movement of his eyes. The medical team remained cautious, yet for the first time they spoke about possibility instead of impossibility. Magnus searched everywhere for Rowan but discovered the boy had quietly returned to collecting bottles. When he finally found him, Rowan seemed surprised that anyone had been looking. Magnus thanked him, believing the whistle itself had somehow inspired hope when none remained. Rowan shook his head and gently explained that the whistle was only wood. What mattered was that a father had finally believed his son could still hear love instead of fear. Sometimes, Rowan said, people fought hardest when they knew someone had not given up on them. Those words changed more than Callum's recovery. They changed Magnus himself. He realized he had spent years building companies while forgetting to build compassion beyond business meetings and charity galas. Watching Rowan share his last possession with a complete stranger revealed a kind of wealth no balance sheet could measure. Determined to honor that lesson, Magnus arranged for Rowan to receive a safe home, an excellent education, and every opportunity to shape his own future. Yet Rowan requested only one promise in return. He asked Magnus never to overlook another child simply because they looked poor. Months later, under another bright daytime sky, Callum walked slowly through a newly opened community center beside Rowan. Laughter echoed from children filling classrooms, libraries, gardens, and playgrounds created for families who had once been forgotten. The center carried no billionaire's name. Instead, above the entrance stood a simple inscription that read, "Kindness is the greatest miracle because it gives hope before it gives answers." Visitors often wondered how one homeless boy had accomplished what the world's greatest doctors could not. The truth was that Rowan had never claimed to heal illness. He had reminded a broken father that love should never surrender before life itself does. That renewed hope gave everyone around Callum the courage to keep fighting one more day, one more hour, one more heartbeat. Sometimes the impossible begins not with extraordinary power, but with an ordinary act of kindness offered at exactly the right moment. Before we reach the end, please write in the comments, "Kindness changes everything." Your words may inspire someone who is quietly struggling today. As Callum released a rescued sparrow into the clear afternoon sky, Magnus watched it soar higher than anyone expected. He understood at last that true riches were never counted in dollars, buildings, or fame. They were measured in compassion, courage, and the willingness to lift another person when they had nothing left to give. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share this video with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kindness Studio. Your support helps spread stories that remind the world that even the smallest act of kindness can create the greatest miracle.